So we know that a chord has to have 3 tones. It can have more, but this gets a little bit more complicated, and then we can start talking about jazz and all this kind of stuff. But in terms of the most basic, clean sounding chords, we want 3 tones. The way to figure out the chords that work well with our melodies that we're playing depends on what scale we're in. So, if we know we're in C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and we finish with C, let's figure out all of the chords that work in this scale. Well, if we were to build a chord on C, then we simply skip and skip. Then we get a chord built on C. So that's called the tonic chord of C. One thing that's really good to also listen for is whether it sounds happy or sad. If it has more of that happy sound, then we're in a major key. So this is C major. Now, let's figure out all the other chords, because there are 7 different letters in a scale. So therefore we can have 7 different chords. So if this is your first chord in C major, your melody could be playing something like, that's not going to work anymore, unfortunately, but with that chord, that melody works. But now let's say we want to add more variety to our accompaniment. So then we can start using some of the other chords. The second degree of the C major scale is D. And I know C major is simple because there's no black keys to deal with. So we're just going to be playing on the white keys here. So I skip, play a key, skip, play another one. So that's the chord on the second degree of the scale. So we can call that a supertonic chord with the proper terms, or just a chord on D here, the 2 chord. And if you listen carefully, it doesn't have that happy tone like C did. This one has a sad sound. So this is called minor. Now let's figure out the chord starting on the 3rd degree of the scale, the 3rd chord of C major. Skip, play, skip, play. This also has a bit of a sad sound. So this would be a minor sounding chord. If we were in E minor, this would be an E minor chord, but we're not in E minor right now. We're actually talking about C minor. So I'm just going to call this the 3rd chord because it's the 3rd tone of C major. It always depends on what key you're in. That's like your home. You have to base everything on that. If C is your home, then all the other chords need to be named based on C, because C is the boss. So that was the 3rd degree of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. F is the 4th degree of the scale. So to build a chord, we skip a key, play, skip a key, play. So the 4th chord of C major, that sounds pretty happy. So that happens to be a happy sounding chord. And the proper name for this is subdominant, but for now we're just going to call it the 4th chord of C major. Okay, and the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is G. So to build a chord here, we skip a key, play, skip a key, and play. So that's the 5th chord of C major. And that sounds actually pretty happy. So far, the 1st chord of C major, the 4th chord, and the 5th chord sound very happy. I wonder why a lot of pop songs in the last 50 years or so use mainly those chords. The 6th degree of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, happens to be A in C major. So we're going to build a chord on this. Skip, play, skip, play. That doesn't sound very happy. To make it happy, I would have to play around with this middle tone. But then that's not in C major anymore because C major doesn't have C sharps. So I'm going to keep it as C. This sounds pretty sad. So the 6th chord of a major scale, when C major in this case, is sad. Actually, it works for every major scale. Wink, wink. Okay, and now the 7th degree of the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is B. Let's build a chord on this. Skip, play, skip, play. Ooh. That one has a very strange sound. This was minor. This sounds more clashy, like there's more fighting of sounds here. That's because the 7th chord of every major scale is called diminished. And that's a different type of chord that we'll talk about in future lessons. But for now, we don't really use the 7th chord. It's too abrasive. It doesn't sound good with the rest of our keys. The most popular ones we use in major keys are the 1st, we call it the tonic chord, the 4th, the subdominant, and the 5th, which is the dominant. If you just remember tonic, because tonic is the home, the tone, 5 is dominant, and then sub means below, so below dominant is subdominant. Those are the most important chords that you'll need for playing a lot of the typical tunes that we hear. So if we go back to Twinkle Twinkle and I use all 3 chords, I can do this. And now I get a very simple accompaniment. And I'm just jumping to these chords. I didn't play this one, I went to a lower position just so my right hand would have a little bit more room. But that's the beauty of the piano, is because all the octaves keep repeating. So you can play a C major chord here, or here, or here, or here. And what's also fun is you can play inversions. So you don't have to always play C on the bottom. You can flip that C up here and play it like this, and it's still a C major chord. It's still the tonic chord of C major. I can take that E and flip it up here, and I'm still playing a C major chord. If I play Twinkle Twinkle with my left hand doing different inversions of those chords I played before, it sounds like this. Doesn't sound bad, but inversions do change the sound quite a bit, and a lot of classical composers have always experimented with this to change the sound. Sometimes they wanted the middle of a piece not to sound so finished, so they'll play around with different inversions. And you will hear that in some modern music as well. There is some alternative rock music I've heard where they play around with different inversions. It's pretty neat. It's a lot of fun. So as an exercise, now that we figured out all of the triads, they're chords with 3 tones in them, so we call them triads. So now that we've found all of those chords, those triads in C major, let's try to find it in a different scale. How about in the key of F major? Well, first of all, we need to know what F major sounds like and if it has any black keys in it. And the answer to that is yes, because C major is really the only one that doesn't. So F major, we'll start with a skip, then have another skip, then it'll have a step, then it'll have a skip, we'll have another step, and then we finish with a skip. It has a B flat in it. So F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Okay, so now that we know that F has B flats, every single B we play is not going to be this one, it's going to be the flat, the black key version. Now we can figure out all the 7 triads, the 7 chords. So, starting on F, to build our simplest chord, which is a triad, we skip a key, play another one, skip a key, which is, we have to keep thinking of B flats now, because F major doesn't have regular Bs, it has B flats. Okay, so that's going to be our tonic chord in F major, the first chord of F major. Second chord, we'll start on G. So we have to skip a key. Oh, there's a B, all Bs are flat. And then if it's hard for you to think of the black key to do the skip, think of the white key. We have to skip a white key here. And there you have it. There is the second chord of F major. To find the third chord, let's find the third tone. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to skip a key, which was really this one, but it's easier to think of these chords using white keys because we're skipping white keys really. We're going to skip this white key and go to here. Ooh, the third chord sounds sad. And we found that even in C major, we played the third chord, it was sad. So minor. Now the fourth tone, fourth degree of F major, 1, 2, 3, 4, is B flat. Just for the sake of figuring out the chord, let's just work with white keys now. So if I start here, I skip, and then I skip, and then I add that flat back in. There we go. So that's the fourth degree of F major and the chord built on that, which is giving us a major sound. And we found that the tonic, the first chord of a scale, and the fourth and the fifth all give happy sounds. And that's why if you want to figure out your own melodies and add accompaniments to them, stick with those 3 chords because it'll make your life so much easier. Later on down the road, when you want to add more what we call as musicians colors, then you can add different chords to give a variety of sound. Okay, so we found the fourth chord of F major. Now let's find the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on C, I'm going to skip and then skip again. There's the fifth chord, fifth triad. And again, it sounds happy. Okay, the sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip, skip. So the sixth chord of F major is sad. And let's do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skip, skip. Oh, my B's need to be flat because I'm in F major. That's a really clashy sound. This would have been minor, but this is diminished. And that's where we get this really harsh sound, and we don't tend to use the seventh chord in much of our accompaniments.